So I came into work early today, not because I'm super eager to get started with the day, but because the ringing in my ears is so loud that I've been up since 3 thinking that there are alarms going off somewhere. So I figured, why not just come to work, spend some time, reading my Bible, praying, and as I was doing that, I thought maybe now would be a good time to just say a couple of things to people who may be kind of watching my life or have been reading some of my hashtag Meniere sucks posts, to kind of take a moment to explain a little bit about what it is and some of the changes that I've been facing and how that kind of ties in with some of the things that God's been dealing with me about lately. So, question 1. What is Meniere? Well, I had never heard of it before until I was diagnosed with it. But now, kind of looking back, I think for me, actually, it got started when I was about 15 or 16 years old. But with Meniere, the symptoms kind of come and go. And a lot of times you can think that it's something else. For example, I was probably about 15 or 16 when I first started getting in trouble a lot for not listening to people. My parents would tell me all the time, like, do you hear me? You're not listening to me. And I just thought, like, they're my parents. I don't want to listen, maybe. Maybe I'm just not paying enough attention. And there would be times I would genuinely get yelled at for not following directions that I completely did not hear them say. And we just kind of chalked it up to I wasn't paying enough attention. If you've known me for any amount of time, you've probably heard me on at least one occasion say my ADD has ADD. I think that's kind of where that got started. But it's not just in and out hearing loss. There was also a lot of ringing in my ears. And whenever I would start complaining about my ears ringing, my mom would tell me, well, it's because you listen to your music so loud. Well, it was the 90s, I listened to Nirvana and Green Day and Nine Inch Nails and, Korn. And you just can't listen to that not loud. So yeah, okay, the ringing is because I listen to my music too loud. Doesn't mean I'm going to turn it down. Sorry. And then there were times when I would get really, really dizzy and just fall over for no apparent reason. Which, again, we just kind of chalked up to I'm clumsy or intoxicated. It was my teen years, kind of fuzzy. So we just chalked it up to a bunch of different other things. It got to where as, I started getting older, I started missing things more, and I really had to start focusing more in conversations, especially if there was a lot going on in the background. And it would come and it would go, and some days I could hear things from 3 rooms away, and some days I couldn't hear you if you were standing right next to me. It just kept changing, so I thought, that's goofy. I don't have hearing loss, because some days I hear just fine. It actually even became this running joke with my kids as they were growing up. Oh, if mom's not looking at you, she didn't hear you. And again, we just kind of thought it was, I just don't pay enough attention to what's going on around me. My situational awareness is sad. So what caused me to actually go and get checked? Back in March of this year, I work as a therapist, and I was sitting in my office with a little girl, and we were playing on the floor, and her dad was in the room, and he was apparently talking to me. I had no idea that he was talking to me at all. And then he yelled at me and asked me if I was deaf or if I was just ignoring him on purpose. The last thing I ever want to do is to upset a client or a client's parent. And I apologized, and I'm sorry, I was just kind of distracted over here, on the floor, and was able to talk to him a little bit, but it was still hard to understand what he was saying. He kind of just sounded like Charlie Brown's teacher, which happens a lot to me, especially with guys. And I thought maybe I just have a thing against guys and don't want to hear what they have to say. But now it was affecting my career. So I got a hold of my primary care physician and I said, I think maybe I need a hearing test. Like I'm noticing I'm having a harder time on phone calls, understanding what people are saying, and I'm really trying to pay attention and I still can't always make out what people are saying. I think I need to get checked, and I'm starting to irritate clients and parents by asking what all the time. So he got me the referral to the ENT, and I went and I had my hearing checked, and I didn't do so hot. Turns out it's not just me not paying attention. And so the ENT looked at the way that I'd failed my hearing test and like the lower tones that are like the baritones, the guys, I wasn't picking up those tones. But my hearing got a little bit better in the higher tones. So with the pattern of hearing loss that I had, and looking at some other questions that I answered on the little questionnaire, she started asking me a little bit more about my dizzy spells and what that's like for me and how often it happens and the ringing in my ears that kind of never go away at this point. And she said, I think you have Meniere's. So I started doing some research and I found out what it was all about. And it was like all of these light bulbs started going on, like, oh my gosh, it's not that I've not been paying attention. It's not that I didn't care about the conversations that I was trying to have with these people. I have hearing loss, but it's weird because it comes and goes. Well, apparently it's been coming and going for about 20 years now. And so I've already gotten to the part where even in between attacks, I don't really regain a whole lot of the hearing. So even my good days, I'm left lip reading a lot. So whenever I realize like this is a lifelong thing, there's no cure for it. I can do a low sodium diet and there's some medicines to help with some of the different symptoms, but this is just gonna get worse, not better. And here I went to college forever to become a therapist, where my job is to listen to people and to hear them. And I can't hear them. That was a hard moment, which leads me to some of the things that God's been dealing with me about. A lot of times when things happen, I'm tempted to ask, like, why? I just want to make sense out of things. I want to know that there's a purpose for it, because I can endure anything if I know that there's a purpose. I handled labor because I knew at the end of it I was gonna have a baby. If there's a purpose, I can endure anything. And so I really began to ask, God, why would you lay on my heart for me to go and get this degree in counseling and give me such a passion to help people and to be with them in their pain, and then take away my ability to hear their pain, to take away my ability to hear what they're saying. And I tried really hard not to be upset about it, but in truth, I kind of was. And God started really leading me to a lot of those typical, Jeremiah 29:11, I know the purposes that I have for you, and, scriptures along those lines of saying, like, I've got this in control, and you may not see what I'm doing yet, but that doesn't mean that I'm not doing something bigger than you can comprehend right now. And it's really been this journey of learning to trust that God really does have everything in hand. And even when the process by which he's bringing me to that expected end doesn't make sense to me, doesn't mean that it's not his process. And instead of asking why, I've learned to ask, okay, so what now? What do you want me to do now? Just show me the next step. I don't even need to see the whole journey anymore. I don't even need to see the end zone, so to speak. Just what's the next direction? What's the next step? So it really has been kind of this season of water walking, I guess, as my world has gotten increasingly quiet, which is strange. I can't hear people, but I can hear alarms going off in my head that aren't even going off. The ringing just does not stop. ever. And there's a lot of ear pain too, a lot of fullness. It kind of feels like the world's worst ear infections on both ears, but there's nothing there because it's the fluid in the inner ear that's causing the pressure. So I try not to complain, and I try to deal with it the best that I can. I try to look at it like, hey, you know, I save money on amusement parks because I don't have to pay to go on roller coasters anymore. I just gotta walk down the hall. Probably into a couple of walls, maybe a doorway or two, but you know, good times, good times. I've got a lot of mysterious bruises because I bump into stuff a lot. And I don't drive very well anymore, so if you see me behind the wheel, you might want to get out of the way and ask why my husband's not driving. He should definitely be driving. So anyway, I guess the whole point of this video is, one, educate yourself. If you've got things going on and they just seem to not be going away, maybe it's worth checking into. And don't dismiss ringing in your ears. That's actually not normal. I didn't know that. If you're getting dizzy all the time and falling over for no apparent reason, maybe you're not clumsy. If it seems like sometimes you hear people perfectly fine and other times you don't have a clue, it might be worth a check. Because one thing that I've found out is 1 in every 500 people has Meniere's. It's more common than I even realized, and I'd never even heard the word until March. And I know a lot of words. Get yourself checked. But even more important than that, if you find yourself in a situation similar to mine, or just any situation that's difficult for you to understand, and you find yourself asking why a lot, or questioning God's plan, or questioning His provision or His ability, I challenge you to, instead of asking why, begin to pray, okay, what now? Because it can happen to anybody, anytime, anywhere. God designs it, not us. So sometimes we just need to ask Him for directions on how to follow His design. And trust that it's going to lead us somewhere really great. Anyway, I love you. God bless. Pray, and above all, don't lose faith.